Something is happening around you right now, and the spiritual realm cannot believe you still haven't noticed it. Not because some enormous cosmic event has taken place, not because the universe has suddenly turned upside down. It is because of you. Because something has been trying to get your attention for a long time, and somehow you continue to explain it away. You call it coincidence. You blame exhaustion. You tell yourself it was just a strange dream, a random thought, an unusual feeling, or simply one of those weeks when everything feels slightly different. But what if it isn't random? What if the moments you have been dismissing are connected? Imagine your spiritual guides watching as another obvious sign appears in front of you, only for you to walk straight past it. They are almost asking, did you really miss that? Did you really think that happened by accident? Did you seriously go back to sleep after everything we just tried to show you? Because behind the ordinary details of your life, paying bills, dealing with responsibilities, surviving stressful conversations, trying to keep yourself together, something deeper has been unfolding. For months, perhaps even longer, there has been a shift taking place around you. A presence, an awareness, a quiet spiritual pressure that keeps returning because you have not fully acknowledged it yet. And no, this is not something you need to fear. It is not a dark force following you. It is not a warning that disaster is coming. Think of it instead as a spiritual alarm clock, one that keeps ringing because a part of you is still asleep. Think about those strange moments that seem almost too perfectly timed. You are driving somewhere, and suddenly a song begins playing. You have heard hundreds of songs before, yet this particular one reaches you differently. The lyrics feel personal. Something inside you reacts. For a moment, everything becomes still. Or perhaps someone you have not spoken to in months suddenly enters your mind. You wonder how they are doing. And minutes later, your phone lights up with their name. You call it coincidence. But deep inside, something whispers that it was more than that. These are the moments you keep questioning. And that is exactly why the spiritual realm is astonished. From where you are standing, everything may still look ordinary. But from a higher perspective, the pieces are beginning to move. A major transformation is preparing to enter your life. The signs have been appearing along your path like markers showing you where you are being led. But you have been so focused on surviving the journey that you have forgotten to look around. Some signs came through dreams. Some appeared through conversations. Others arrived as sudden feelings you could not explain. And some may have appeared at night when your conscious mind was finally quiet enough for something deeper to reach you. Yet because nobody taught you how to understand these experiences, you dismissed them. You were taught to trust only what could be touched, measured, proven, and explained. So when intuition spoke, you called it anxiety. When synchronicity appeared, you called it coincidence. When your inner voice warned you, you called it overthinking. And when something inside you whispered that your life was preparing to change, you told yourself not to get your hopes up. But here is what you have failed to recognize. You have already been preparing for something greater. There is a version of you that is ready to step into a completely different chapter. And while you continue treating today as another ordinary day, the unseen preparation has already begun. You worry about finishing your chores. You think about tomorrow's responsibilities. You wonder how you will solve the same problems you have been carrying for years. Meanwhile, something inside you is becoming stronger. Your perspective is changing. Your tolerance for certain situations is disappearing. Things you once accepted now feel impossible to tolerate. Conversations that once felt normal now leave you exhausted. Places you once belonged suddenly feel unfamiliar, and dreams you buried years ago are beginning to return. That is not necessarily confusion. It may be preparation. Because before your outer world changes, your inner world often changes first. And there's another reason the spiritual realm is trying so desperately to get your attention. You have been carrying emotional weight that was never meant to stay with you forever, not normal everyday stress, something deeper. Old disappointment, old rejection, old heartbreak, old beliefs about yourself. Stories you have repeated for so long that they have started to sound like facts. I'm not ready. I missed my chance. Maybe this life isn't meant for me. I'm not talented enough. I'm too late. Other people can have that kind of life, but not me. You have carried these beliefs everywhere. They have become invisible luggage filled with stones. And because you have carried them for so long, you barely notice their weight anymore. But your guides are not surprised that you are tired. They are surprised that you still believe you are required to keep carrying everything. You are allowed to put it down. You are allowed to stop identifying with the pain that shaped you. You are allowed to walk away from an old version of yourself without feeling guilty. That is the freedom you have been searching for. Yet somewhere along the way, you began believing that freedom had to be earned through more suffering. That happiness required permission. That peace only came after you proved yourself. But perhaps the next stage of your life does not begin when you work harder. Perhaps it begins when you finally release what no longer belongs to you. Recently, you may have noticed something strange. A heaviness, restlessness, a feeling that something is different, even though you cannot explain exactly what changed. You may have awakened feeling as though you had been somewhere else mentally or emotionally. You may have felt strangely distant from your old routine. That feeling deserves your attention because transformation rarely announces itself with trumpets. Sometimes it begins quietly, a shift in perspective, a sudden realization, an uncomfortable truth, a desire to change something you previously tolerated. Your world may look the same on the outside while everything underneath is being rearranged. And your guides are watching closely, not because they are judging you, not because they are disappointed. They are watching because they can see possibilities that you have forgotten how to see. They can see the person you could become when you finally stop allowing your past to dictate your future. They can see you living differently, choosing differently, speaking differently, walking into rooms with confidence instead of shrinking yourself. They can see you experiencing things you once believed were impossible. And that is why your inability to recognize your own potential is so difficult to understand. Because the breakthrough you have been waiting for may already be closer than you think. Something that has remained hidden is preparing to become clear. And the truth coming towards you is not here to destroy you. It is here to release you. You have spent so much time asking, why did this happen to me? Why did I experience that heartbreak? Why did I lose that opportunity? Why did that person leave? Why did I have to struggle? Why did everything take so long? But perhaps the more powerful question is, what was this trying to teach me? That single change in perspective can transform everything. Because when you stop seeing every painful experience as evidence that life is against you, you begin noticing how those experiences shaped your discernment, your strength, your boundaries, your wisdom, your ability to recognize what is right for you. Some closed doors saved you from rooms you were never supposed to stay inside. Some relationships ended because continuing them would have required you to abandon yourself. Some opportunities disappeared because they were too small for the person you were becoming. And some delays protected you from receiving something before you were capable of carrying it. That does not make every painful experience pleasant, but it may reveal that pain was not always pointless. You are not behind. You are not automatically too late. Your moment has not disappeared. In fact, you may be arriving exactly when you are supposed to arrive. But because you have spent so much time comparing your journey to everyone else's, you struggle to recognize your own timing. You see someone succeeding earlier and assume you are failing. You see someone finding love and assume you have been forgotten. You see someone walking confidently into their purpose and wonder why you are still searching. But what if your path required preparation they never needed? What if your delay was not rejection? What if it was alignment? The strange part is that you have already received reassurance, again and again. But every time you receive one sign, you ask for another. You say, if this is really meant for me, show me something. Then something happens. For a moment, you believe, and 20 minutes later, doubt returns. So you ask for another sign, then another and another. At some point, you have to ask yourself, how much proof will finally be enough? What would have to happen before you looked at your life and admitted that perhaps there really is a pattern unfolding? Because when you look backward carefully, things begin to connect. The disappointment, the rejection, the confusing detour, the relationship that ended, the job that failed, the opportunity that disappeared, the plan that collapsed. At the time, each event seemed separate, but now some of them may be starting to make sense. You can see how one ending forced you in another direction. You can see how losing one person made room for you to rediscover yourself. You can see how one closed opportunity pushed you towards something you never would have considered otherwise. The path was not straight, but it was still moving. And the signs did not only appear through dramatic experiences. Sometimes they came through music, sometimes through a stranger's words, sometimes through a conversation that answered a question you had never spoken aloud, sometimes through a powerful feeling right before sleep, sometimes through the mysterious certainty that something around you was about to change. And now another reorganization may be beginning. Things that once felt complicated could soon become surprisingly clear. People who confused you may reveal what they truly want. Situations that kept you uncertain may finally show you what they really are. And although the truth may initially feel uncomfortable, clarity will make your decisions easier. You ask for direction, but direction does not always arrive by adding something new. Sometimes direction arrives through removal. Something falls apart, someone walks away, a plan suddenly changes, a door closes without warning. And only later do you realize that what looked like destruction was actually clearing the road ahead of you. You may be entering one of those seasons now. The atmosphere around your life is changing. Other people may even recognize it before you do. They notice something different in the way you speak. They see strength you overlook. They recognize potential you keep minimizing. Meanwhile, your attention remains locked onto everything you believe you have done wrong. You keep staring at the mistakes while ignoring the momentum building underneath your feet. And some of the things you prayed for quietly may be closer than you realize. The opportunities, the peace, the breakthrough, the relationship, the clarity, the new beginning. But there is something important you need to understand. You may not recognize your blessing immediately because it may not arrive in the form you expected. You expected thunder. It may arrive as a whisper. You expected something dramatic. It may begin with one peaceful conversation, one unexpected message, one introduction, one decision, one idea, one moment when you finally say, I cannot keep living the same way. Sometimes the biggest transformations begin quietly. That may be why you have overlooked what is already approaching. You keep waiting for the earth to shake while your new chapter is gently knocking on the door. And throughout your journey, there may have been moments when you were protected without realizing it. Situations that almost became disasters but somehow changed direction. People who intended to stay in your life but suddenly disappeared. Opportunities you desperately wanted but later realized could have damaged you. Paths you almost followed that would have taken you far away from yourself. At the time, these moments felt frustrating. Looking backwards, some may feel like protection, not because you are superior to anyone else, but because your life still contains something unfinished. There are experiences you have not reached yet, people you have not met yet, things you have not created yet, lessons you have not taught yet, and perhaps even lives you will influence without ever realizing how deeply you affected them. This is why you cannot keep treating yourself like someone whose story is already finished. It is not finished. Something new is trying to begin. And the next few decisions you make could influence the direction of this new chapter. An opportunity may appear unexpectedly. A truth may become impossible to ignore. Someone may reveal something. A door may open. An old door may finally close. And when that moment comes, your response will matter. Will you continue choosing what is familiar simply because it feels safe? Will you hold on to the same excuses? Will you convince yourself that you are not ready? Or will you recognize that perhaps the discomfort you are feeling is evidence that you have outgrown your previous life? Human beings often sabotage the things they prayed for because the answer does not feel familiar. We ask for change and then become afraid when change arrives. We ask for growth and then panic when growth requires us to leave something behind. We ask for a new life while desperately gripping the habits of the old one. Do not make that mistake. Pay attention. Observe what is happening around you. Listen carefully to your intuition. Notice what repeatedly enters your awareness, because perhaps hearing these words at this particular stage of your journey is meaningful to you for a reason. Something within you may already know what needs to change. There may be a truth you have been avoiding because accepting it would require action. A dream you silenced because hoping again felt dangerous. A decision you postponed because staying undecided allowed you to remain comfortable. Your intuition may have been speaking for years, but you kept lowering the volume. Why? Because what it told you sounded too hopeful, too ambitious, too different from the life you currently know. Maybe it told you that you were capable of more. Maybe it told you that the environment around you was too small. Maybe it told you that someone was not meant to continue walking beside you. Maybe it told you to begin again, but you dismissed it because you were afraid of believing in a future that looked bigger than your present circumstances. Yet perhaps the future is bigger. Perhaps the doorway you keep searching for has already opened, and you are standing in front of it, still asking for permission to enter. A major turning point could now be unfolding. A decision is forming, a new direction is becoming clearer. And whether that change begins through your own choice or through circumstances outside your control, it may permanently affect the direction of your life. The synchronicities are becoming harder to ignore. Your inner voice is becoming louder. The desire for something more meaningful is growing stronger. And the strange part? A part of you already feels it. You can sense yourself waking up. You can feel that you no longer fit inside certain versions of yourself. And maybe that is exactly why you have felt restless. Imagine for a moment that the difficulties you survived were preparing you. What if the painful conversations taught you how to speak for yourself? What if the sleepless nights taught you how deeply you wanted peace? What if rejection taught you not to beg for spaces where you were barely tolerated? What if heartbreak taught you how important it was to stop abandoning yourself? What if every moment you thought was breaking you was also teaching you how to carry the life you are now asking to receive? Maybe you are being trained without realizing it. Maybe the destination you kept running from has been moving toward you the entire time, and while fear keeps telling you to move away, something deeper keeps inviting you closer. From your current perspective, you can only see the next few steps. But imagine seeing your entire journey from above. Imagine seeing where every road leads. Imagine seeing exactly why one door had to close before another could appear. Perhaps from that perspective, your future would not look frightening. Perhaps it would look extraordinary. A quiet, energetic shift may already be moving through your relationships, your home, your choices, and the way you interact with the world. It does not need to be dramatic to be real to you. Sometimes transformation is almost invisible at first. You simply realize you no longer want the same things. You stop chasing people. You stop explaining yourself. You stop forcing conversations. You begin protecting your peace. You start questioning beliefs you inherited from other people. You become less impressed by appearances and more interested in authenticity. You begin choosing what feels aligned instead of what receives approval. That is when life begins to change. Not necessarily because the entire universe changed overnight, but because you did. And once you change, the reality you are willing to accept changes with you. So if you have been feeling restless lately, if something feels different, if old places no longer feel comfortable, if your intuition has been unusually loud, if you keep noticing strange patterns, meaningful conversations, unexpected reminders, or moments that seem perfectly timed, do not immediately dismiss yourself. Pay attention. You may be standing much closer to a turning point than you realize. And perhaps the greatest surprise is not that change is coming. Perhaps the greatest surprise is discovering that somewhere deep inside, You have been ready for it all along.